Hello guys, and welcome to the third and maybe not even last part of my tutorial series, where I'll guide you through the journey of how to draw a girl. So last time I left this on the sketch. We drew pretty much her entire anatomy from top to bottom. She's a 15-year-old girl who's looking towards us. That's what the tutorial was about. I did some perspective lens in here so that her body would be a little bit smaller as it gets away from us, and a little bit bigger as it's closer to us. Her pose, it's balanced, and now we're gonna do the clothes. Now there are two types of clothes: the ones that are attached to the body, which could be made of leather or just clothes but very close to the body, or the other type of clothes which are hanging, maybe a shirt open or a big jacket or something like that. Okay, so I'll give it my best shot at drawing as many as possible of this, and I'll show the two types. So, okay, very quickly. I usually don't even draw clothes, like I do something like this, where I make my characters just mechanics because they are cyborgs, so really bear with me. The first type of clothes I'm going to go through is the one attached to your body. It's very simple. It usually gets up to here if he has long sleeves. Then it goes out a little in here to create the border like that, and then since it's attached to the skin, it doesn't really show. You can do like maybe something like this, some folds that go towards the inside of the body. So that's one way. Or maybe some folds, very small folds going out and then back in like this. This will create the effect that the clothes are folding into, but still just going out a little bit of the body, like this being the skin, and then they go out a little bit and return because of gravity. So holding that in mind, usually these are shirts they have a neck gap in here. So like this, they have quite a gap, and they allow you to see some of the chest. So you might even have it like this, where the shirt is open like that, or you might even get a little bit of the breast, or they go like this, and you get a little bit like that. Last time I did these lines, that's just because I was thinking of something like leather, which stretches like that. In the case of leather, you might even get some lights going on like this on one side only. Okay, so in this case, that's not even fully correct. Let me fix that for you. Let's say the light is coming out from this side, then I'll add light on here, in here, and on this side there shouldn't be any, but just because in comic books, at least what I've seen on Catwoman, even if there isn't a light on that side, she will have like a wavy line like this, which simplifies how light moves in leather. Okay, so she has lines all over here, and yeah, that simplifies it. Also, leather bends a lot. It has lots and lots of folds that they go out and back in, really loads and loads and loads. So that's one type. And then if I add one more layer and I show you how clothing behaves when it's hanging, I prefer this system when I draw clothes just because it looks more dynamic and more organic at the same time. Let's say she's dressing a bit like a wizard, so she has this long vest that folds in here. It's not attached to her body, so in this part it might get very close or even be attached to it, but not necessarily. This is entirely up to you. Then the lower part of the sleeves will be hanging, and I've seen a lot of people just drawing this. Let me show you here. So they draw the hand, okay, and then the sleeve sometimes goes like this. Okay, even Hatsune Miku has it like that, but I want to tell you something. Hatsune Miku is wearing a leather dress where she has... So a leather dress is pretty stiff and it doesn't really respect gravity, because the thing about stiff textures is that they don't bend that much. They might have folds and stuff, but they don't. They're hard to bend. Okay, it's really hard to bend them. So for the most part, it should be falling on the hanging on the lower part and resting on top of the on whatever they're on. So if they're on top of the leg, if this was if this was a skirt, it would go something like this. It would be, first of all, let's say it starts here like that. On this part there's nothing holding it, so it'll be just hanging. And because of the way skirts are made, they kind of go out a little, unless there are those kind of skirts that, let's say this, okay, in case this is a woman, right, and she's got a big butt from the other side, and from the front part, this is what you'll see. You'll see this type of skirts that they can barely walk with, and they're really walking like this, and it's very, very bad for them. So I'm just gonna do a schoolgirl's kind of skirt, in which it'll be short and it'll be hanging. So it goes like that. On this side is hanging, and then in here I have to remember it's 3D, so I'll make it so it turns. I will then stop the line because there's a fold. This is due to the fact that if we look at it from the above, there will be one leg here and one leg turning to that side. So it will go something like this. Okay. It will go like this around the leg, and then it will turn. In this part I will add the line. Okay, so I know it's not very clear just yet, but you'll see. In this part there's nothing holding it, so it would go like this, but I have to remember it's 3D, so around this part is where it begins to turn. Okay, so it's not falling anymore, it's not just hanging. At this point there's this part of the leg that holds it. This is where the skirt will be resting now. And might even do this on another color. Let me quickly change that. Do this, and I will color adjustments, color balance, and bring this red. So I'll get this red. Here we go. And I will continue drawing this skirt. So it falls on that side, but at this point I can't keep on drawing the skirt on this side, on this line, because the fur is just stretching, but that doesn't mean it's elastic. Okay, so at this point it starts going back like this, and it returns to the original length. Okay, so it might even be resting even less, so like this, where it goes around the leg. I'm making it so it has a curve here to remind the viewer that it's a 3D leg. Okay, it's not just 2D. And then the last part, it could go like this in a curve if she's sitting down, but even sexier if the skirt is just hanging in this part as well, or even hanging even more. Okay, so yeah, for the purpose of this video I'll make it even sexier, where the skirt is even bending even more. It goes from out in to the leg and then back out. What this creates is the feeling that, okay, first of all, it begins as a professional, so it's away from the, oh my god, from her skin, and then it goes back in, so it becomes a bit of a slutty skirt, and then it goes back out, which is even more slutty because potentially you can even see underneath, but let's not go there. It's one of those anime skirts that can blow away with the wind easy. can lift up with the wind. And one of the things of these skirts is that they're divided into these folds, and I'll show you how to do them in a moment. So you do some lines at the bottom and shorter lines at the top. One way I work this out, let's say this is the skirt, so I'll divide this like that. So in this part, what I'll do is I'll do long lines at the bottom and shorter lines at the top. Now if you want to do the opposite, you can do that. You can do long lines at the top and short at the bottoms, but that indicates that there's a small curve here, whereas in this one there could be even a long curve like this, where the fold is very strong and it just folds a lot. So the bigger the fold, the longer the line should be at the bottom. So if there's a long line at the top, that just means it's folding very much at the top, which doesn't make sense because that's not humanly possible. So just be careful on how you do those. So short lines at the top and long lines at the bottom. Now lastly, I'll do a small line here, which indicates that that's where the division of the legs is, and that's too close to her private parts, so I don't want to indicate those too much. And okay, this will do. It goes all around her waist like a belt at the top, and that's pretty much it. That's for a skirt. Now going back to the sleeves, so this one is hanging. I'll do, since in this part it's resting at the top and hanging at the bottom, I will do the same thing throughout the whole drawing, just to keep the same, give the idea that it's the same type of clothing. So it's resting at the top, very close to her shoulders. It's lifting up here a little bit just because the way the body is let's say the neck is like this, and then at this point we have the shoulder. So what happens to the cloth is that first it's falling and then it's hanging because it's held here and here. So there's gonna be, in here is gonna be held up. There's this space in the middle. Okay, so I'll go back to my previous color. No, in fact I'll do it blue, whatever. It goes like this, very close to her, and then it hangs again. Now the thing is, in here she's going around muscle, it's going around the muscle, so it's going to be hanging again because it's held by the muscle up to here, but then it's hanging. So I'll make it hanging there again, and because it's a very light and flexible sort of material, it's very dead, I'll make it so it can be blown with the wind, like what I did for the skirt. And if there's some air inside her sleeve, then this is gonna float a little bit off of the skin. Not too much, but like that. That should be enough. And as you can see, I'm not keeping it straight, I'm keeping it kind of wavy. Okay, this creates the illusion that it's not like leather, it's just a very soft material that can be easily bended even by the wind. And in this part I have to consider the fact that there's a gap in there, so I will go around her. Okay, and in this part though, usually close bend like this because that's where we bend the arm the most, so they're usually even divided like this into the sleeve of the arm and then a bigger sleeve for the torso and then back to the other sleeve. So we can even do those in a different color. So finishing with this, there's nothing holding it here, so it folds. Whoops. Here, back to the navigator. Okay, so it really folds in here, just hangs. Not this much. More like that. Yeah. Maybe a little closer to to the elbow in that part, just because I'm giving it sort of that look that wizards have, where it's just where they have such long sleeves that they kind of hang. Even fairies have it like that sometimes. So back to the chest. Okay, this takes time because like I said, there are different types of neck cuts. So I could do something like this, even something like this, like some heroes have, some heroines have, where it's a low cut like this, and we get to see the line of the breast, and we get to see this line, sometimes even divided like that into a V shape. That creates the idea, the illusion that the breasts end there. Now, if you don't do it, then it can even give the idea that it continues all the way up to the top, which is actually what's going on inside. If we were to take the skin out, we'd see that the breasts are held in this part. This is the bottom part of the breast is what gives it the thickness, and the top part ends somewhere here around the shoulders. So, well, it bends. It's more something like that. But that's the idea, and you can think of it as a bra, as a natural bra. So let me just go back to what I had before, and there. So I'll do something like that, and since I want to keep the same kind of texture for the clothes, I'll do something like that, where it's hanging again because there's nothing holding it here. So I'm doing it away from the clothes. Now remember, this is 3D, so if there's a gap between her skin and the clothes, okay? And I can even simplify this with a couple of curves that show that it's not being held by anything. Because you see, when something, let's say this is the skin, if it's held by the skin, if it's resting on the skin, there's really not movement. But when the clothes isn't held by anything, it really just falls like this and follows gravity, so it goes down. But there's sort of a fold in the middle, and the more it folds, the more lines you can draw. So I'm going back to this, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a muscle in here, so I'll do a bit of a fold, just a little bit, because I don't want to. If you show the folds too much, it just looks as if they have extremely huge muscles, and we don't really want that in a woman. It doesn't always look so attractive. So maybe to the point of Wonder Woman, fine. But other than that, it goes too far. Okay, so I can even go for a bit of a higher cut, where it would look something like this. Just, it ends here, right below the neck bone and the collarbone. Sorry. So you get to see the collarbone a little bit. You see the bones coming out in here, or maybe the one at the bottom too. And then it rests on top of the skin like that. Okay. You can even go up a little bit just to give the idea that she has a bra underneath. And in this part, if you don't want to do it like this, you can do a cut in here where you get to see the armpit. And that's just something else that will make us delete this sleeve, and it's already a bit more sportive like that. You can even do a sexier version of that, where you get to see a bit of the breast popping out from there, like this. Or you can even go for something like a princess wool dress. I'll show you. So very big shoulders, but you have to show that it goes back to being a skinny shoulder. That's because if you just keep the clothing all the way big like that, it really doesn't match the tractor that you drew. So it goes very big, then very skinny almost instantly. And you have to show it on this side as well to give the 3D idea. You might do even a ribbon to show that you're attaching it to the skin again. And then you can go big again, and then do another ribbon. Now I'm doing very simple ribbons here, don't bite me, don't hate me, I'm just doing very easy ribbons. And then at the last part, it doesn't end with a ribbon, it usually ends with a small sleeve like that. That goes out of the hand, or even like this in some cases. Or you might even go for something more wavy, like this. Remember, if you have folds, then they should be connected with lines like that. Now, in the top, if I add lines in here for every curve that I have, it would look horrible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a couple of lines here, just to show where, in what part it bends, because it falls here, it's not being held by anything. But then there's something holding it here, which is something that stops gravity, and it's the fact that this material doesn't stretch. That's what you're saying by doing a fold there. Like that. And yeah, you're just showing it's hanging and there's air in the middle, so you can show that with even more lines. But that's the main idea, okay? So I'll hide this layer, and I'll do one last type of clothing, which is, let me see. Okay, it's more of a winter type of clothing. So okay, it goes out like this. This is the fur that some jackets have, and I do that by just going zigzag. And the more you do this, the more hairy it would look. Okay, keep the hair short in the outside part, in the borders, and even shorter the closer you get to the skin. And then if you want, you can do longer strands of hair in the middle, but that's optional. Usually this type of jackets hide the fur behind the person as well, so they go more like that. You have to imagine that there's a line of fur going all behind her. And what I'm going to do next is the jacket. Usually the jacket is thick, usually it's a winter jacket, but because I want to keep the character sexy and very skinny, she's not too skinny, I mean she has muscles and stuff, but I still want to show them a little bit, so I'll go all around the clothes, all around her body like this, and I'll show some of these curves. And here's when it gets a little tricky. Now I have the option of making her breast bigger with the jacket. That's very optional, sometimes they look too big, but if you see it works, then do it by all means, because it would make more sense, and in some cases it also makes it sexier, but it depends on the character. If I'm drawing a 12-year-old girl, I'm not gonna do this, just because it looks ridiculous. Like in this picture, you can see how it's a bit silly that a young girl has big breasts. It's easier to give them almost nothing, keep them flat, and that would make more sense. She's about 16, 17, so it makes sense to give her some breasts, but that's pretty much it. Don't push it. The older she is, then the more it makes sense for her to have big breasts, but try to keep them proportional, guys. If she's got very thick arms and stuff, then it's fine for her to have big boobs, and if um, she's fat or something, then it still makes sense, but otherwise don't. It might ruin the full thing, so be careful with that. I know as a girl you don't usually make that mistake. It's usually guys who do this mistake with breasts, but it's probably because we don't have them, so it's hard to tell at first, at least. So once again, I'm pretending there is a gap in there between the skin and the jacket, and I'll do that by not exactly following that line of the of the of the skin. Like in here, I could follow this line, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm gonna go like I did with the skirt, where I go like that, and then like this, and then I'll create a curve all around it. Now, because I want to be showing some of her butt with, I don't think a skirt, maybe pants, so I'll do this like that all around her. And I'm trying to stop the jacket before it reaches the leg. Fortunately, I failed so hard in the attempt, but one of the things I'm thinking of is to add some fur in here, like that, adding some zigzag lines, and then I'll erase this, but I'll keep it in mind, I'm not forgetting about it, because I'll have to draw the fur on the other side, so I need to pretend that there is an imaginary line. That's where, okay, the jacket technically still goes around it, and there's some fur on top, but I have to consider it while I'm drawing it. I have to consider that below this fur there is still some clothing that is hidden, and because it doesn't look too much of as fur, I'll add some hair here in the middle to create that illusion. Usually jackets like this are very soft and comfy, so one of the things you can do is add some texture to show that it's bending like this, maybe add pockets and add lots of folds, especially everywhere. Jackets like this bend a lot in here. They usually are divided into sleeves, middle, torso, and then more sleeves, and they stay fat all around the body. Now I don't want to show this too much because I don't want her to have large arms. So there it is. And around the sleeves I'm going to have some more fur. And on the other side as well. This creates a 3D idea. Some more folds in here to show it's not exactly on top of the skin. Something like that. And you can even give her gloves, but I'm not going to. I don't think she's gonna be that cold. I'm probably thinking of the cold because of the blue color. Oh god. I moved it. Moved it around. No. Go back. Okay. Something like that. Oh, right. That looks pretty good to me. Now she looks a bit short, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go to this girl drawing and I'm going to extend everything a bit. Like that. Control T. I'm looking for far for now, just to make sure everything is, oh, too tall. Like that maybe. Shrink it a little. Extend it even more. Okay, she's more of a model now. And I'll go back to my drawing. And what I did before is I did a skirt. In this case she's cold, so she's gonna go for something like pants, right? Thicker pants. Oh, come on. And for the pants I'll just go for something like leather or something that can stay attached to her skin and still be warm. Now leather gets cold very easy, but it does hold the temperature of whatever temperature we have. It holds the body temperature very well, but it's not exactly what I'll be wearing for a cold day. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You can even do a lower deposit of this. Forget about the fur, okay? So maybe I'll copy this layer, hide the previous one, and in this one I'll delete the fur. Okay, and I'll show you why in a moment. This is what I did for one of my characters on here. I give her a scarf, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. When drawing a scarf, you have to remember that it goes around the neck. The whole purpose of the scarf is really to cover the neck, so there's no point of drawing a scarf in here, okay? We'll go all around here, like that. I'll imagine that it goes behind it, but it doesn't, okay? So I'll just imagine that. Bit of a fold in here, bit of a fold in there, and then it folds in there. You can do a sphere or something more squarey. And then it comes out from here, one strand. Remember the way it works. So the breasts are 3D, so they bend forward. And then it folds because of gravity. And then you might have one side flying like that. And this part as well folds. You may even have some hair hanging like this. And then you draw the lines. Use the lines to show how he gets away from us and the way he folds. So maybe like that. Keep them curvy. And that concludes the guide on how to draw clothes. If there's any other type of clothing you have in mind, then you can tell me and I'll do one about it as well. But that's pretty much all there is to it. It's not that complicated. So, until next time guys, bye bye.